Hello, everyone. Welcome to UW Whitewater's Masters in Social Work Program Orientation. This is just an overview of the program. Really starts your semester off with what are the expectations and what are you going to be doing in the next year. Some of you have attended open houses, but we really just wanted to take this chance again to explain our mission. So the mission of the Masters in Social Work program at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater is to cultivate advanced social work professionals skilled in developing collaborative relationships within dynamic regional and national contexts to address diverse human and community issues that affect well-being. So from the start, you can see that our goal is to get you out into the community, to understand issues that affect social workers and our clients, and find ways to make long-lasting changes to improve the health and life of those we work with. We are a professional program. We are a generalist program. So I'm going to start with defining generalist. All of you will have the same core courses that you're expected to take. You will be taking practice courses, research courses, policy courses, and your field course. Generalist programs build the same set of skills across all students. You will have the Council of Social Work Commission on Accreditation requirements embedded in these courses. These are values, knowledge, and skills that all of you will learn, regardless of which track in the program you want to pursue. Some of you may be doing school social work, some may be doing mental health, others may be doing medical or aging. So no matter what field you choose, you are all still in a generalist program. Those same set of core classes to help you build the foundation of your future. We, as a social work program, also have professional expectations. We're going to be talking about those professional expectations throughout the field. But social work is a profession. The program is founded on those professional values, knowledge, and skills bases that all of you are expected to start developing in the master's program. Many of you have come from an undergraduate social work program, so you're aware of what some of these are. But hopefully throughout the master's program, all of you are growing in your professional skill sets.
As Sarah mentioned, the field of social work is really founded on values and ethics. For those of you that are entering our program with a bachelor's in social work, you should be very familiar with the MSW Code of Ethics. For those of you entering with a different degree, this is something that you will learn a lot about in your first year. It's really important that you read the Code of Ethics and have a full understanding of what those expectations are, because social work is a value-based profession. So we really make our decisions, whether that's practice decisions, research decisions, etc., based on the Code of Ethics. With that, there's also a need for self-understanding and the use of self as a professional tool, both through your studies as well as while you're in your field education. Some of the things that we ask of students to embody as social workers is maturity, responsibility to self, as well as responsibility to the field and the clients that you're working with, and using empathy as a part of this. It's really important for you as a master's level social worker to have a clear understanding of the Code of Ethics from top to bottom. This is a part of the state statutes exam. So when you finish your program and start moving on with licensure, you're going to have a solid understanding of this. Lastly, with regards to value and ethics, as we know, the social work profession values diversity as a part of our professional standards. So this is something that you will see woven throughout your courses in your time here at UW Whitewater.
As part of your program here at UW-Whitewater, as you heard earlier, as a professional program, there is requirements not only from the profession, but also from the department. The department has standards that set forth a guideline for students while they're in our program. These expectations of the social work department are outlined in the student standards and support are the students' handbook, and each of you will have a copy of that when you start the program. One of the things that we really try hard to do at UW-Whitewater in our social work program is to support our students so they're successful in learning and building competency in all the areas set forth by the Council on Social Work Education. For some reason, if we see a student having difficulty, this may be in their coursework, in class attendance, while they're attending their field placement, we will ask the student to participate in a standards and support. A standards and support is just that, in that it is to require students to attend a meeting so that we can discuss what is going on with the student and set forth some supports for the student to continue to be successful in our program. The student will meet with a couple of faculty, which we call our standards and support committee, to help with this process. Some of you will have to complete a criminal background check while you are participating in your field placement. This is something that will be required as part of that process as well. If for some reason you have any other difficulties within the program, the Standards and Support Committee will also review this and support you in any way.
There are other requirements based on our university graduate school division. Those are that you maintain a 3.0 grade point average. You do need to have a 3.0 in order to graduate. We also want to remind you that plagiarism is not allowed, especially at a graduate school level. We do use Turnitin, where we can compare your work to others. So it's really important that you find ways of expressing your work in your own ways. Again, this is graduate school. It's really when we want to see your critical thinking skills, and we want you to show what you're capable of doing. Also, this means you should not be working in group projects or sharing work with other students unless you are told ahead of time that you're allowed to do that, or the professor gives you instruction. This is such as doing a group paper together. There might be classes that require that, but you shouldn't be doing that if it is required for just an individual paper or on exams and things like that. You do have to complete all required coursework. Our competencies are measured based on the coursework you complete. So we need that to demonstrate evidence that you do have the knowledge, values, and skills that are required of the program. You are required to complete your internship. You cannot cut your hours short at any time. So it's usually 500 hours a year, and that's 2 semesters. That's part of the state licensing requirement. And so, no, you can't say, oh, I got a job at 300 hours, so I'm not going to complete any longer, right? You need to fulfill all those requirements. We do have advising every semester, so we will send out emails. It's important that you look at that and participate in advising in some way. Some of us do it online. You could schedule face-to-face meetings. That's really up to you. And then we do allow reasonable modification request. You can work with the students for Center with Disabilities, Center Students with Disabilities. Please start doing that right away. When the semester starts, they are very busy. And so if you need extra time on a test because of a disability or something in your life, they need to be the ones that give us that. We can't just go based on your words. It needs to come from the center itself. They are the ones that guide who we can give modifications to and who we cannot. As Kathy stated in her earlier slide, we do understand that things come up. Maybe there's a death in your life or you've been injured. We can work with you at those times, but then the modifications will come as part of the Standards and Support Committee meetings. So please adhere to the graduate school requirements. You can find those on the graduate school webpage if you have any other questions about that.
In addition to those standard requirements that are put forth by the graduate school, there are requirements for MSW completion with regards to your knowledge base and your skills. So essentially, for effective professional social work, we're going to be looking at your writing skills, your communication skills, and your ability to think critically. So that'll be measured in a variety of ways throughout your courses, but essentially having solid writing skills is essential to your ability to be successful in the field. As we know, documentation is an integral part of providing client services. So we need to make sure that you are up to par with the expectations for professional writing. Additionally, based on the particular class, you will be engaged in videotaping as well as oral communication. And that is important for your learning as well as being able to assess yourself. Many of the classes you will be asked to engage in role plays and classroom discussion. This isn't optional. We need to see those skills at hand and working in the classroom so that we can appropriately assess where you're at and then provide additional supports as needed. Finally, we also look at your ability to use the computer. Now, certainly we're not asking you to be a tech expert, but basic understanding of computer skills and how to use the computer for both oral and written communication is essential for your success in this program. As you are all entering this online program, obviously you will be taking online classes. It's really important to point out that although your summer classes that you took tend to be asynchronous, meaning that you don't have any in-class time, this is not always the case for all of your courses. You are required to log into all fall and spring courses. When you look at your courses in WINS, it will tell you what the in-class time is. So for instance, your field class, which is Social Work 783, it's a good example of a way to look in WINS, and it will tell you the exact meeting times every other week from 6 to 8. We ask that any asynchronous class that you're involved in, you complete at your own pace within the timelines set forth for you. However, for your synchronous classes, you are required to log in at that designated time, have your camera on, and be actively engaged in class. Any classes that are synchronous will show the expected classroom time in the WINS system. Additionally, as an online student, we recognize that many of you are coming from different parts of the state and in some of our neighboring states, which sometimes can pose some difficulties for building relationships with your cohort. We strongly encourage you to reach out to your classmates. Some of your online classes you will have classmates that are in our in-person program. So you'll be able to meet those folks too. So if you're working on group projects or engaged in research with shared interests, we encourage you to use different ways to build connections with those students. Sometimes that's through social media, sometimes that's through an ongoing working doc in Google Docs, just ways to try to enhance your time in the program. Further, as Sarah mentioned previously, you will have advising with a faculty member each semester. Beyond that, we do encourage you to reach out to any and all of the MSW faculty. We're excited for you to be a part of our program. We would love to meet you, whether we have you in class or not. And that can be done through WebEx meetings, or certainly if you're ever in the Whitewater area, we'd love to meet you in person.
All of you up to this point should have met with a faculty field liaison who was the person that was instrumental in helping you find your field placement. The important part of our program at all different levels, at the traditional and the advanced standing, is your field education experience. As stated earlier, your field education experience is in the fall and the spring. The fall and the spring field placements are at the same agency. As a program, we do not allow students to change agencies at semester break. If any issues do arise, we take this as an opportunity to work with you, the field instructor at the agency, and find ways to work through the situation that is happening. It is very important part of the field education process, not only to learn the individual skills, but also to learn how to maneuver some of those supervisory or organizational difficulties that you're having. As indicated, those 500 hours are 250 hours in the fall semester, 250 hours in the spring semester, which averages about 16 hours a week. This schedule can be flexible for you and your field organization and instructor. It is important that you are always communicating with your field instructor and your faculty field liaison what your current schedule is for those hours. Due to the recent COVID pandemic, some of our agencies are now providing some of their services virtually. We want students to experience getting some virtual experience working in their field education, but we think it's very important that that the majority of the time that a student is doing during their field education is really at the agency. We believe it's important to build those relationships with field instructors, with other colleagues, and seeing clients and consumers in person. We also set forth the professional expectations in the field education experience. You have heard earlier in this presentation what it means to have a professional degree and have professional expectations. If we see students having difficulty during their field education experience, this would be another reason that we would talk to the student about that and possibly have them have a standards and support meeting to see what we can do to support the student. It is also very important, if you're having difficulties, that you're having communication with your field instructor, your faculty field liaison, and keeping them informed at all times of what's going on so that we can be supportive during this process. You are required, one of the really important things, and I think we talk about this in our field education classes, is the safety in field. When we talk about safety in the field experience, we're talking both about our physical safety and our emotional safety. Physical safety, we are always concerned about students, and we want them to be mindful if they're ever in a situation where they don't feel physically safe, that they're immediately talking to their supervisor or a supervisor at the agency. We'll be talking about this in our field education experience courses about what kinds of things we can do when we don't feel physically safe. Another really important aspect of the social work field experience is the emotional triggers that individuals or students will find while they're in their field education experience. These triggers can cause some triggers from our previous emotional traumas that we may have. So it's also very important to be mindful of those experiences and also processing those with your field instructor and supervisor at the agency in the field education experience course. This course is a really great opportunity to talk about those experiences if you feel comfortable. As mentioned earlier as well, the field education course is one of those courses that has what we call synchronous time, where you will be meeting either in person, if you're a face-to-face student, or in this case as online students, during WebEx meetings for a couple hours every other week. The field education experience, one thing I always like to say is there's no such thing as a perfect field placement, that when you're at your field education, you have to learn to lean into your discomfort and make it your own. Very important to think about that you're going to have things that you see at your agency that are not okay. We need to talk about those things. We need to learn from those things as well. Very important. This is, as a generalist program, we realize that you might not be learning every single skill that you want to learn, but this is a responsibility for you to take those opportunities and learn from them the best you can.
One way that we're hoping to engage all of our students, both face-to-face and online, are, the Introduction to Social Work Student Org. It's going to provide you lots of opportunities to get engaged either on campus or professionally. Next year, we will have Lobby Day at the Capitol. So even if don't come to Whitewater campus, maybe that's an opportunity for you to take a day and get to meet us all. So please watch your emails, your UWW emails. So that's a great point at this time too, just to remind you, we're not allowed to respond to external emails. So we prefer all communication be through your UWW email. That way too, you won't miss some information that SWISO or Phi Alpha Honor Society sends you. Phi Alpha Honor Society, you do have to be voted into, and you also have to be in a top percentage of your class. So you might have a 3.9 GPA, but if a lot of people have a 4.0 GPA, you might not fall into that top percentage. If you have questions about that, we'll let you know more as the semester comes, but we do still want you to be involved in both organizations as they look at volunteering or educational opportunities. Here we go. I now want to take some time to talk about state licensing. So at the end of your classes, we are going to hopefully help you get licensed to the state of Wisconsin or a different state, depending on where you want to go. We primarily focus on the licensing process in Wisconsin. Typically around January of your last year in your program is when we will start talking about this process. Unfortunately for the state of Wisconsin, the process has been somewhat slow in the past. We had told students not to start studying for their national exam until after they're graduated. We would still prefer that. So we'll keep you up to date with what our expectations are as the year goes on. But right now, around January, we'll start saying, hey, let's start thinking about applying to the state for your licensing. The state licensing requirements and the process, the first part is the slowest, just getting the state to initially respond and start your application. Again, in the last 6 months, they've gone electronic, so we're hoping to see some improvements in that. But we'll let you know how that is looking and what students' experiences are. But the main thing we want to stress with you is that the ASWB exam requires that you study. We've had students take that exam too early, not finish their coursework, and have problems passing the exam. So for us, it's really critical that you have everything in place until around May of graduation was when you should start considering taking that ASWB exam. Again, so that your coursework is done and that you can have times to study. But please don't start this process too soon. Your field course will help share information about when that process should start with you, for you. Planning ahead, it's good to keep all of your binders and all of the information so that you can study. Know that there is a cost with licensure to apply and to do the ASWB exam. It's about $400. So next spring, be thinking about that. You know, I always say ask for Christmas, ask for help with the licensing exam for Christmas. That's part of being an adult, right? And so what is it going to take for you to get that license completed? We do have some information about Illinois and Michigan and Minnesota. We'll help you navigate that, but by no means are we experts in that. So those looking at moving out of state might want to start looking at that process, or if they have connections in those areas, try to figure out what that will look like for them. Now that you have gone through this PowerPoint, we are going to ask that you complete a short, sort of like a quiz and a contract. You're going to answer a few questions that just demonstrates that you went through this and that you've also looked at your student handbook. It's really important for us to know and to have documentation that you understand the agreements of this program. So you will be sent a link in which you basically hit yes, I have read and understand these, and you demonstrate the knowledge that you've gained through this PowerPoint. So although I am the program coordinator, and you know, I should have introduced us all at the beginning. So Sarah, Kathy is always available as well. Kathy tends to do more of the field coordination and contracting kind of situations, and Kristen, it kind of does all of it. So all of us really work together to answer questions. But if there's questions immediately, feel free to reach out to me. Starting in September, you will all have individual advisors assigned to you, and that's a great person to reach out to because you can build that relationship that we've been talking about and get to know other people. So I really appreciate your time today and just learning some of the basics about our program, and encourage you to use all the resources available to you. Kathy or Kristen, do you have any last minute comments?
I would just say welcome. We're excited to have you. I'm looking forward to working with you through the field class, and hopefully we'll have you in another class as well.
And I would just say the same thing. Welcome, and looking forward to building relationships and guiding all of you in your journey in your MSW program.
Thank you all for taking time to review this, and welcome.